Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Londonderry Town Council meeting for August 15th, 2022. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing as is our tradition. Let's hope for the townspeople's safety and our first responders' safety with the upcoming Old Home Day coming at us very quickly, and that we have a successful event. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we open with public comment. Check my agenda here. I have nothing. If there's anyone who would like to address the council, now would be the time. Under public comment. Anything under public comment?
Oh, you know I can't be here. Shut up.
Okay.
That's why we love
Okay,
you.
Christine Perez, 5 Leslie Drive, Londonderry. I have had great concerns about the information that was given to the town council about our brownouts and blackouts, and I have done a ton of research. And in the research that I have done, I have found out some very, very interesting things that I would like to be able to meet with the town council privately, if possible, to discuss some of the things. I have spoken to at length and gotten tons of information from the ISO-NE. I have spoken with and had a meeting with Eversource at length. I just think that we do not have the information that we need to have. So that's what I'm asking for.
Under state law, we're a public body, so there's only certain things we can meet in non-public about. Those would be things that would be covered under the RSA, and also if we meet with our attorney. So to meet with a private citizen, I don't know that there's a provision in the law that allows us to do that.
Michael?
I don't have the law in front of me, but I would be skeptical as well, Mr. Chairman, that would be permissible. Not knowing the kind of information that Ms. Perez is proposing to discuss,
Just facts, just facts.
I'm not aware of a provision that allows us to do that.
So can I meet with one person on the council and they can tell the rest of the council as a private
We can
citizen?
meet with up to two,
I can meet up to 2.
because we can't be in a quorum.
Okay, so if you pick 2, give me a call. Okay?
Okay.
Good evening, Katie Sullivan, Winding Pond Road. I just want to publicly thank the volunteers that are helping with Old Homestay this year. There's a lot going on in the 4 days coming up, starting on Wednesday through Saturday. But I just want to make sure the town knows that we have a wonderful group of volunteers and volunteers underneath them that are helping run this whole event. And I just wanted to make sure that they get thanks. So if you see them working during the 4 days, from the police department to the fire department to our DPW to town manager to Kirby to the town council and the schools, everybody has come together to really put on a 4-day festival for this town, and we hope everybody enjoys it. Pray for no rain, pray for safety, and we're going to have a great 4 days. And I just want to thank you for your support.
Thanks to you as well.
Thanks, Katie. Yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to join you on Friday night. I have to attend a happy occasion, a wedding on Friday night in Salisbury. But I will be there bright and early to do my duties on the town common.
and Mr. Chairman, if I can just acknowledge Katie Sullivan's efforts. It's been pretty neat seeing this all come together, and I can't imagine it going as smoothly without her.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
All right, with that, public comment. Anyone else? Public comment is now closed. I'll take a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Public hearing for Lithia Springs conservation transaction is now open.
Mr. Chairman, this was continued after the last town council meeting. There was a public hearing at that time as well. And on that occasion, Mr. Speltz from the Conservation Commission and I presented to the council the details of this transaction by which the town proposes to acquire this parcel of land, which is on Nashua Road. to be held in conservation in perpetuity. The council had some questions at that time, both as to value and as to what kind of development, if not a conservation transaction, could go in there. In other words, how threatened is this particular piece of property by development? We now have additional clarification on those concerns, and I am able to report to the council as follows. That particular piece of land, which is at, it is 54 acres of land, and was formerly the Lithia Springs site, has 14 wet acres, 39 upland acres, and 17 usable acres of land. The appraised value, according to our appraiser, is $2,080,000, more than $500,000 over the purchase price. The town has the ability to go forward with the transaction at the $1.5 million number, making this a very good deal for the town. I'm happy to take, and Mr. Speltz is happy to take any questions that the council may continue to have at this time.
Do we have a GIS evaluation done of this?
We have, Mr. Chairman, because in the past, when we've done these development plans, these GIS development plans, it's always been in the AR1 district. This is different because you have, I believe it's zoned, you have a performance overlay zone there, and the underlying zoning is not AR1. And so that made it very difficult for the GIS manager to be able to do that kind of an assessment. There was some work that was done, but the most that she was able to say and the most that she was able to plot out was there is upland acres that are usable for development. So that was the extent of what she was able to do based on the configuration of the parcel, what we know about the parcel, including the fact that it has not been surveyed, it has not had a wetlands delineation to our knowledge, and so this is the best that we were able to do.
Okay, so the answer is we don't have a complete GIS evaluation. We have a best effort.
Correct.
Just making sure I understand.
Yes.
Yes.
Did you mention easement?
So we are proposing, and it's the council's practice to acquire, as you know,
Yeah.
Mr. Vice Chairman, to acquire these parcels in fee.
Yep.
And that is the proposal that is before you. There
Yeah, I
was-
just thought at the beginning you said an easement. I just want to make sure, because we don't do easements
Right.
anymore, so that's why.
I may have misspoken, but
That's
that is
okay.
not,
That's
that is
fine.
not the
Yeah.
proposal.
Just wanted to make sure. Thank you.
So I have a letter that's been submitted to me for public comment by Deanna Milley, 8 Valley Street, Londonderry. It's addressed to me as the chairman. It's handwritten, so bear with me as I go through this. And she did call me to ask me to read this into the record. Dear John, please read my letter, August 15th, council meeting. I've included info from the assessing department and information obtained at the Leach Library about the Lithium Springs history. I don't expect you to read all of it, but you may want to share with everyone. So Deanna's, I'm doing my best here with this, Deanna. So there's additional information here, I think, looking to share with all of you. The main concern is that my letter be read. She's a 50-year resident. So let me get to the July 21st, 22 article. Hearing on the purchase of Lithium Springs property was continued. This was continued at the July 11th Town Council meeting. Mike Malaguti, Town Manager, remarks as follows. Town is looking to acquire 54 acres of land, Nashua Road towards the Hudson Line. To use it as the former home of Lithium Springs, the water company has since gone. Needed to go before the Conservation Commission for $1.5 million. It did. Town council approval is needed. Appraisal amount is needed for the cost of the purchase agreement. They have a safeguard for the funds, and they can take it back out of the agreement. The Conservation Commission has about $750,000 in their land acquisition fund. And no increase on that amount. Hopefully, they will be able to award different grants than they've applied for, and will be applying for them in order to purchase the property. Mike Speltz gave a lengthy presentation. He stated that it would be protected to protect their drinking water, and that it would help to protect the wildlife. The property has had a long history. Londonderry was attained the Londonderry Leech Library and Derry News. I've passed that information on to the rest of the councilors. John Wilson says he doesn't think it's a great investment to buy properties that have wetlands and can't be developed because they're already protected. The state will protect it. John Farrell, the chairman, asked for a GIS calculation done to determine what the buildable area is. I was told that they couldn't obtain the GIS configuration, so I guess she must have spoken to somebody who told her that it couldn't be done. 19 apartments would be built. I don't know if that's 19 apartments or 19 apartment buildings. And that wasn't the case all these years past. The property has been, is it wet or dry? I mean, I'm assuming it's probably dry now in the drought. I was also turned under the contract that it would be left to the conservation chairman would have an easement, so it's not an easement.
Not an easement.
The property ID is 002-022-0, location 274 Nashua Road. When Mike Malaguti was asked about the deadline, he said it was August 31st. We learned about this on July 11th council meeting. Seems we are expecting to make a decision on assumptions and grants and funds. So, Ms. Mealy, I hope that I read this to your satisfaction. I'm sure you'll let me know. I did try to get every piece in here that you shared and shared the information with the rest of the council. So do we have the funds? They have $750,000.
No.
They're looking for $1.5 million, so we don't have the money.
That is correct. There are several potential sources of funding. Mike Speltz can talk more about the specific grants that are being pursued. There are, my understanding is that we present a very strong case for those grants based on some of the unique characteristics that Mike talked about at the last hearing. This is prime habitat. It has a number of things that the state cares about when they are giving out money. And by that I mean species, but also wildlife connectivity across a large area of town. Obviously, there are no guarantees, but Londonderry has the ability to back out of this deal at no cost to Londonderry through the end of the year if that funding does not materialize. So that is, I do not believe an assumption or speculation. It's a contingency that is contained within the contract that will either be satisfied or not satisfied. But Londonderry has the property under contract and has the ability to keep it that way, at least until the end of the year, while we work on those grant applications.
Yes, but this one,
He was first, go ahead.
Is there
No, let's go ahead.
is there an automatic trigger if by the end of the year that timeline or those funds aren't met or those funds aren't provided? Like, is it automatic that we pull out?
It is not. It is our option to pull out, but I wouldn't advise the council to not pull out if those funds aren't in hand or on the horizon.
But
And,
it'll come before us again.
yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
yes,
I believe that we can go after some of the water money if we cite this as a secondary water source. We should be able to go after that money. Mike, are you aware of that? Some of the other funds that are available through the, for water, for the water trust funds.
Mike Speltz, 18 Sugar Plum Lane, Conservation Commission.
I think the grant that you're referring to is the one that we used when we purchased the piece of Mac Orchard just behind the building here, the Groundwater Trust Fund. That is, that program would not accept our application because it's limited to areas that have a source water on them, and ours, unfortunately, it's very close. There's close to 1,000 acres of wells, wellhead protection areas, but they're not on the property, so that particular grant won't work. However, we have applied for a $500,000 grant from the Land and Community Heritage Investment Program, and we have applied for another $500,000 from the Aquatic Resource Mitigation Program. And those are the two that I think Mike is referring to as being very appealing. The Land and Community Heritage Program has two purposes: protect land, habitat, water supply, all that sort of thing, and heritage. So they help preserve buildings and historical sites. Our particular project here at Lithia Spring is going to get points on both sides of it. Protecting land, we're also protecting our heritage through the protection of the Lithia Spring site. The ARM Fund is strictly focused on when projects in the Merrimack Valley disturb wetlands, fill wetlands, disturb streams. They're required to put money into this fund if they can't find some other way to mitigate it. And now that fund is dispersed out to projects that make up for those acres that were lost. And our natural resources on the Lithia Spring parcel are a very good fit for the wetland qualities and functions and values that were lost within the Merrimack River watershed. So they try to put the repairs back in the same place that the damage took place. So I think we have pretty good odds at getting those two. So with the $500,000 from each of those, that's $1 million. $700,000 from the town, that would be enough to make the purchase price and do the survey and all the other transaction costs. In addition, as you probably recall, we have a authority from the townspeople to release the restrictions on the orchard that's on Gilchrist Road. And if that were to take place, that would bring in significant more dollars. So we basically have a four-legged stool. We need three of the legs to work. So I'm fairly confident that we can pull this all together. I would like to mention, Councilor Green, the reason you might have been thinking easement is the ARM fund, the $500,000 we're applying for from them, requires that the land be permanently protected through a conservation easement. So we don't want to hold the easement, we want to own the land. We will grant an easement to another agency, and that'll satisfy that requirement to get the $500,000. Is that,
That easement has to be approved by the town council before you grant it, right?
yes, it would.
I do, though, also believe, and I'll call the water commissioner and ask him, I do believe that if we can cite that as a secondary water source for our people in the town, we might be able to get a few more dollars out of them for that.
Yeah, there is a provision, although I think we may have missed the application date, but you can, a potential water supply. Unfortunately, while it was good for selling spring water to people that had various illnesses and wanted a drink of the water, I don't think there's enough water there that's going to qualify us for a water supply. The aquifer that's under that's producing the spring is fairly what they call low transmissivity. Sorry. It's how fast water moves through the rocks underneath that land.
Okay.
So it's probably not a good choice for a future community water supply. You know, a well maybe serve the people that are there, but not.
Well, I think we,
Not-
at this
not-
point, we have to look at everything.
Oh,
when
agreed.
We're talking about water.
And rest assured, I have.
I know you are. No, thank you. I'm still gonna reach out and see if there's anything else.
Sure, yeah, I mean, there's no harm in that.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike, I'm looking at this, yes,
Yes,
map here. I take it the 17 usable acres are abutting 102?
yes.
What I'm trying to get at is, if we don't do this, and there's 17 acres, is that 17 acres, it's usable, but is it gonna be difficult to get in? Are they gonna have to get wetland permits to do it? And do they have access to the 17 acres?
Yeah, they have a conditional curb cut from the state
Okay.
Department of Transportation to come off of 102. It's also possible, although we'd have to, do a lot more homework, to find out if they could also get an access off a High Range Road. But they definitely have an access off of 102.
So the bottom line is, they have a curb cut from the state.
Right, and
And the 17 acres are up front.
Right,
It's not-
right.
It's not in the back.
No, and that was the rationale that the
Okay.
planning staff went through when they came up with this 17-acre figure that you heard earlier.
Thank you, Mike.
Anyone else from the council? Yes.
Mr. Mr. Spelsk, if you could please, or Mr. Malaguti, remind me of what the vote of the conscom was on this? How'd that tally out? It was unanimous, thank you. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone who would like to speak to the council on this subject only? Please approach.
Go ahead, you go first, I'll go second. I'll go first. We're in a recession. I do not think the town.
Address, please.
Christine Perez, 5 Wesley Drive. We're in a recession. I don't think the town should be putting up, as much as I'm for conservation land, I do not think the town should be putting out any money. If anything, saving money for our taxes, for the people who live here, and for other pressing issues that we have in the town. One being, we need to come up with a plan for these brownouts and blackouts. So,
Chairman,
Yes.
I just wanted to clarify about that money, just so I'm on the same page. This money is set aside for this specific purpose, for conservation only, and can only be used for that use. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. First off, I am for this. I think it's a good idea. Obviously, the reasoning is for the potential for water. There is an aquifer. It is relatively small there, but we do need to look at all potential water sources. We need to look at our natural resources, water. Okay. So there are other aquifers in the town of Londonderry. All of that is available to us. It has been identified. We need to look at that. But getting back to this here, I understand somebody went to the DOT for a curb cut off 102 and indicating that the 17 acres are abutting 102. Do I understand that correctly?
There's easy access from 102 to the usable acres, correct?
Yeah, well, there's a considerable drop of land there. Okay, the elevation drops down. Has anybody walked this property?
Yes, Mr. Speltz has walked the property. The property has been walked by, to my knowledge, our environmental consultant, or soon will be. It's been walked by the appraiser as well. So we do have a very good idea what's out there, what it looks like, and what the configuration is.
Your environmental consultant has walked the property.
That is correct, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, good. good.
And that's for purposes of conducting the Phase 1 environmental that's,
Right, I mean, obviously, we need to know what's there, what's out there. It would be nice if somebody had done some soil sampling, but looking at it myself, it looked like the upland was more to the north. Is that not the case?
I haven't walked it myself. That's not my specialty, but I'll take your word for it.
Well, no, don't take my word for it. No, I'm looking for somebody that actually knows. Do you happen to know, Mike? Upland is to the north? No. It is not? Upland's at 102. Upland's at 102. I stand corrected. So anyway, apparently, the council is put in a position to kind of make a vote on this or a judgment, yes?
Yes.
To move forward?
Yes, the council needs to approve it or not approve it in order to move forward or not move forward.
Right, so, and you also have the ability till December to back out if the money that we're looking for isn't available.
That's correct. There are certain contingencies that run at the end of August. There are other contingencies that run at the end of the year. The financial contingency, which is us having the money to move forward and to close, closes at the end of the year.
Yeah,
This contingency, which we're here to decide tonight, closes on August 31st. So if that deadline passes, and this goes to your point, Councilor Franz, if August 31st comes and goes and the town council has not approved it or rejected it, then we lose the ability under the contract to back out on the basis that the town council doesn't want to move forward. So we need to make a decision one way or the other, is what I'm
We have
saying.
another meeting before the 31st.
that being said, I would say move forward. Thank you.
Anyone else under public comment?
Marge Bedoy, Conservation Commission. I just want to make a small clarification that those conservation funds, that we have, 700,000, none of that is taxpayer money. That all came from fines that were levied on people who did developments.
Thank you. So question I have is that this is the parcel in which, I can't remember if it's the corridor for Eversource or National Grid goes through.
Next.
Correct. Immediately adjacent to it, there is a significant power transmission.
Is there an easement for that corridor on this property? No?
So I don't believe so, and Mike doesn't believe so, but that can't be determined definitively until a title search and a survey are done. But that being said, no, I think we can safely say that
So
no significant
it's
part.
not part of the 54 acres?
The easement for utility, no. To our knowledge, no.
Okay.
But there is also a title contingency that runs through the end of the year as well. And if there is an issue in that regard, and we're wrong about that, we would have the ability to get out of the contract.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, here's your options. Your options is we can take a vote on whether to move forward or not move forward. We can take a vote on whether to deny this, or we can move it to the 29th. I can tell you that as the chair, I will entertain any motions, but I can tell you that I will probably ask for it to be moved to the 29th because I still think we're lacking some information. There seems to be some things not completely clear. And I want to make sure we make a good decision. But I will certainly entertain a motion.
So, Mr. Chairman, when you sit there and you say there are some issues that aren't completely clear, so everyone understands what are the issues that we're not completely clear on.
Well, I don't know, I just found out, I don't know whether or not those power lines are in or out, because we don't know. We have a final assessment, it's done, a final appraisal.
Yes,
I'd like to see the final appraisal.
certainly.
I think the council needs to see it and understand it.
Mr. Chair, is there any way, so that map, the satellite image is a great representation. Is there any way to have the GIS manager put, and I know there was some great difficulty as the town manager had stated, but is there any way to maybe color code what is upland, what is wetland, and what is usable land?
So I'm going to, go ahead.
Let me explain to you why I want to see the appraisal. I want to see the appraisal, I want to see what it says. Because I think some of that information will be in the appraisal and will give us some determination around that, since we were not able to get the information from GIS, or the system isn't able to provide what we're looking for.
Right, there are too many variables for her
So
to
if I
be
can
able to
see
do
the
that.
appraisal and what the appraiser says, the appraiser will generally speak to what the value of the land is and what is upland, it will have a number of pieces of criteria in it that I haven't seen yet.
Right.
I have a number, that's all I have.
But what would help me is, I'm a visual person, I mean, I think it would be helpful to kind of see it, if possible,
I'm
on a map.
I'm happy to make the request again, but when I did make the request, and the answer I got was, without a wetlands delineation, without a survey, without things that we don't have and will not have for some period of time, it's not possible to, we have a number in general terms, we can't show you specifically where that is. We have a pretty good idea, but this is partially art. It's more art than science, I think, at this point.
I have one more question, Mr. Chair.
Yeah, please proceed.
Is there a time frame on when we'll hear back on the grants?
So my understanding is officially by the end of the year, but we may have some indication in the late fall which way the wind is blowing.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes?
I've been given information that there's 54 acres, 14 wet, 39 upland, and 17 usable. Someone had to look at a map, and someone, even if it isn't right to the pit point, someone had to look at the map to put those figures together. Let me see the map, or let me see what they did to come to that conclusion. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least it gives us an opportunity to see where the uplands, the wetlands are, and the good land. I don't care if it's off 15 feet, 20 feet, it doesn't make any difference if it's certified.
I'm hoping the appraisal has some of that information, yes.
Yeah, I don't know if we're duplicating efforts here. I think a presentation, if I'm mistaken, and you can speak to this if you want, gave us that last time, maybe we're not remembering, the overlays and all of the different parts of the wetlands and everything. We actually had it visual up there. Anyway, the reason why I'm making a statement is because I personally think I have enough information to make a judgment call. I think that the contract, the PNS, actually covers anything that we would run into that's problematic, so that we could, have an outside issue. The other reason is I'm not going to be here next town council meeting, and I wanted to at least let people know that this was something that I feel very strongly about, but I'll respect, obviously my council members' delay if that's what they want to do.
I mean, I'm not saying delay it. I mean, I'm looking at it from a common sense standpoint of view. We have water issues in town. I don't think that's a secret to anybody. We're trying to protect natural habitat. I understand that. The appraisal that we do have, that we haven't seen, that the chairman has indicated to us, is well over the asking price. That's a positive. There was a taxpayer here that was concerned about spending that kind of money with the wetland. That's why it's important to me. I know there's 17 acres. I need to know where those 17 acres and how much of a threat is that to this parcel. Because if it is a threat, I mean, from what I see here, I could vote no. But in all fairness to the councils up here, if you want to see the appraisal, that's good business sense. We should see it.
Jim, I guess the other thing is that, it's like sometimes I'm in meetings and we beat things to death, right? And I'm not trying to say we're doing this here. But let's look at the other side of it. So if we don't buy it, what's the cause? Is a consequence to everything you do or don't do. So if we don't buy it at the end of this thing, whether we voted tonight or 28th, and we say no, what are the consequences? All those consequences that we've already been talking about, we don't want. We don't want to, just ignore a great wetland that another councilor just identified. We don't want to have buildings on this property. There's a lot of negatives if you look on a chart. positives and negatives. I mean, we have a lot of the things built into this PNS that are taking care of the concerns I just heard. So, I'm sorry.
Are you done?
Yeah, I apologize.
May I speak? I kind of echo what Mr. Butler is saying, or Councilor Bustler. I think that even, Mike, am I correct? If we say we want to move forward, we can still gather information and still change our minds at any point?
Yes.
Or are we locked in, like, bang, we can't move?
No, there is a broad contingency that allows the town to continue to conduct inspections and tests all the way through the end of the year and to get out in our sole discretion if we are unsatisfied with the results of those
So
inspections and
if we
tests.
voted tonight to move forward, right, and John wants more information, we can still ask for more information. It can still be put out publicly for everyone to see as we move forward with this purchase. Is that correct? I just
Yes.
want to make sure I'm absolutely 100% correct, because I do think we need more information. But I personally, I think it's a good idea to move this forward, and I would hate to miss that 30th date by some dumb mistake, we just didn't get it in time
hurricane
or
or
something.
something.
Yeah, something just happened, that got lost in an email.
Call an emergency town council meeting. All I want to do is see the appraisal.
I get you.
I mean, I just don't, I'm not comfortable, it'd be like buying a house without a house inspection. I know there's people who do that, but I wouldn't do it.
There is no negative consequence associated with continuing this to the 31st. 29th. And as you pointed out, we do that, if for some reason we can't have a meeting on the 29th, well, then we can do it on the 30th or we can do it on the 31st.
Yeah, I just want to see the detailed appraisal so I can know exactly what it is that we're making a decision on.
When was the appraisal done?
July 28th.
And who's got the report? And how come the council hasn't been forwarded that?
I apologize, Counselor Butler. I will ensure that the council has it in advance of the decision.
No harm, no foul. I just want
No, I
to see the
understand, I
thing.
know what you're saying.
And just to clarify, the funds are from the CONSCOM, which, as Marge had stated earlier, is from fines levied on, and grants. So I just want to make sure I understand zero impact from the undesignated fund balance.
So correct. Zero tax impact. A lot of this is land use change tax, is my understanding.
That is
And-
correct.
And so when property is carried in current use and it is taken out of current use, there is a land use change tax that's typically paid by the developer, at least the significant ones. And those monies go based in 80%, I believe it is, or some significant percent goes.
formula.
There's a formula. And it's divided between general government and conservation.
Okay.
The first 100,000 goes to the first 100,000 goes to conservation. It's a 60-40 split after that first 100,000.
Thanks.
Mr. Chairman? Okay. You have another?
No, please.
Yeah, so I just, I've been doing this this is my 11th year, next year is going to be the 12th. And I got to tell you, you guys did a great job on this. I mean, this is probably one of the better ones that I've seen. It fits all the boxes in my brain as far as what we want for conservation. And so pleased with that, guys, when you vote on this next time, because I would like to make a motion to continue this till the next meeting. Please remember that I said what I said. So,
Second that.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This is now continued to August 29th. We're still in public hearing. Resolution 2022-15, acceptance of unanticipated revenue under RSA 31:95-B, section, 3, A. $530,316.91 highway block grant and a $397,786 municipal bridge funding. Hi, Justin.
This is really short and simple. The state, in their recent budget, decided to give additional money towards the highway block grant as well as the municipal bridges fund. Because this was not allocated previously, we need to formally accept it through this measure.
Can I accept it now as at the end of the public hearing and then dispense with it, not doing it in new business?
Yeah.
It's on the agenda twice, that's why I'm asking. Are there any questions from the council? Yes.
Does this have to be used for bridges?
The bridge portion does.
Yes.
So what's the bridge portion?
I believe it's about 370,
Okay,
397.
397 is the bridge portion.
Yep.
Correct.
So how many bridges do we got in town? And what's the state of those bridges? That are bridges. The rest of them are state bridges, right? That go over 93.
There's at least one that needs a significant amount of work.
Which
That's what I'm able to say. I know where it is. I can't recall the road exactly, but there's one right off of Rockingham Road in the northern part of town.
DPW's here, let's ask them.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Chartier? What bridges are we fixing? Sir?
So Stokes Road is one bridge, it's a red listed bridge, the other red listed bridge is Hall Road, the bridge over the swamp.
Thank you.
The bridge over the swamp. And where was the other one? I didn't hear you, I'm
Stokes
sorry.
Road.
Stokes?
That's
Where is
up by Hong Kong Taste, right? Is that it? That's the only thing I know in that.
The Triangle Mobile?
Yeah, by the mobile.
No, it's good.
Where the Cohos is?
128 and 28,
How it always washes out?
yep, where it gets flooded out.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and there's a
But that's
small
not a
bridge that
part of-
goes off to the right there.
It's easy to
Behind the
miss.
house that he has the equipment on, if you go
Does the
right
fire-
past there.
Yeah.
There's a road right there and there's a bridge right there.
Does the fire department use that bridge?
I don't believe that they do.
I think they go in the other way. There's another access way in.
I guess that when I think of bridges, I think of the big bridges. So so what are we planning on doing with these? Like just,
It's good to know we have money to do something.
well, I just know that road floods out all the time. By fixing this bridge, is that gonna help that area?
That area does not flood out because of that bridge. That area
Okay.
floods out because the little Cohos meanders back and forth under the old railroad bed.
Yeah.
And what ends up happening is that the beaver make a dam in the old box culverts out
Okay.
there. So again, it gets to the point where it doesn't meander back and forth going to the north, floods out that big wetlands area, and that's where it floods out at that intersection.
Because I know we spent money to try to fix it numerous times and it never got fixed because of that dang beaver.
I know, didn't the state call someone in to bust up those beaver dams?
Correct, and then they put a
Couple of years ago.
a beaver deceiver, which is
Beaver deceiver.
a beaver
Right,
deceiver.
because now he traps the beavers
Okay.
and
Beaver
relocates.
deceiver.
It
And
prevents
if
them.
you've been out there, if you go out on the rail trail, you'll see them out there sometimes, going after them.
Correct.
All right, as long as we have something to use it on, like I had no idea what we had. I knew all the bridges were state bridges that in my mind, it's a bridge.
These funds don't lapse either. They carry forward.
So, but the other chunk of money we can use for other road
Roads,
projects? Anything that we want?
Roadway, yes.
All right, nice and easy.
Well, I know we have that 500,000 that we got, and we were supposed to put the light, or look at putting a light at Stonehenge and 28, and I haven't seen anything on that.
That money is still right there.
It's still there.
Yep,
That's a
it's put
That's a
aside, and that's
state road,
exactly
yeah.
what
But
it
we
was.
paid part of it, and it was supposed to I remember Kevin saying.
It was you're
Government-
talking about,
government-
I
There's
believe,
a-
warrant
It's
article.
to be done, right?
Yeah, there's a public informational scheduled for September 1st.
September 1st?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Right.
So,
The other
John,
money is for town-owned roads.
Mr. Trotter,
All right, thank you.
what is the definition of a bridge? I know that sounds weird, but
It's a good
we
question.
have cars that go over metal culverts that water goes under. Is that considered a bridge?
Depends on how big that culvert is. If
Ah,
a
okay.
span 10 feet or greater is considered a bridge.
10 feet of grade.
Harvey Road culvert's only an 8-foot structure.
I was getting to that,
Keeping
okay.
it to 8-foot structure, because again, if we were to replace that, we're probably talking $2.5 million
Mm-hmm. okay.
versus 1.5.
Got it?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a public hearing. Is there anyone from the audience that has a question? Yes, sir.
If you want. Yeah, this is a good thing. We're getting money from the state.
name?
What? Oh, Ray Breslin, 3 Gary Drive. This is a good money, we're getting this money from the state. It's being put to a good use. The only thing I would wonder is, and by the way, when we talk about bridges, as John said, it depends on the size of the thing. If it's a box culvert, John?
It depends on the span again, right?
There's a span. Right. But at the head, we're talking about up by the head of Mammoth Road where it meets 28?
Rocket, correct.
Where the gas station is there?
Yep.
Which is unfortunately a flood zone there, right? And we're also talking about redoing that whole intersection there. I think the money has already been designated for that, which I think a lot of that is going to be torn up and completely redone, that whole intersection.
I'm not quite sure, Ray, yet, because again, right now, that intersection has been identified in the 10-year plan.
Right,
So-
right, and the
so
money has
final-
already been designated for that, I believe, yes?
Yeah, so when a 10-year plan is designated, it is strictly a plan. There are dollars allocated against the 10-year plan at the discretion of the Department of Transportation.
Which
And-
I
and the
believe has
state.
already been approved.
It depends.
Just like Stonehenge has already been
Well,
approved.
since we contributed money to that, that's different. But the state does have the right to be able to move their money around within the 10-year plan or to add things to the 10-year plan.
Absolutely, but,
They have the criteria to be able to do that.
yeah,
But
I
yes,
believe both of them
yes, I
have
understand your
been
point.
approved, but I could be wrong.
I understand.
Anyway, that is a flood zone there. We've had a lot of floods there. And so if we're going to be replacing culverts, bridges, I think we need to take that into account. I'm not saying it doesn't need to be done. I think there's probably a lot of other culverts, some of them have already been done. Right.
I explained though, Ray, why that intersection floods. It's got nothing to do with the bridge. It's got everything to do with the Cohos Brook meandering back and forth, north and south, under the existing railroad grade out there. So under that railroad grade, there's these old box culverts.
Which is also being replaced, yes?
No,
On Hall Road?
no. You shifted to the west. We're talking east.
Okay.
The
All right.
water meanders that back and forth, and then it floods out, and that's where it floods.
Nevertheless, we're getting good money.
Absolutely.
Spent on a good thing.
Absolutely.
My only question was about that whole area there with the gas station and so forth. If the state is going to come in later and do a lot of work there, maybe that's when that should be done. But,
Understood.
thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else under public comment? Seeing none, let's bring it back to the council. Accept a motion to accept the unanticipated revenue of $530,000 and change and $397,000.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative, resolution carries. I'll accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Public hearing is closed. New business, we're going to, number one, we've moved to the 29th. Number two has been resolved. Number three is the resignation of Lisa Drabeck, the Assistant Town Manager, from the CART Board of Directors, and the appointment by Ona Arnett to the Director of Senior Affairs to the CART Board. I will accept a motion to accept the resignation and the appointment
So
of
moved,
these
Mr.
two.
Chairman.
Second.
Those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Thank you for your service. Briefing on road paving plan and practices. You're back.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Again, Town Manager Malaguti had asked that I attend this evening, again, just to give a briefing on our road pavement management plans and practices. So as the board knows, again, we have two line items within the Public Works budget. One being road maintenance line item, and then the roadway maintenance trust fund. That's where we get our money for the work that the Public Works Department does. Again, the road maintenance line items such as the $300,000 that we're getting from the highway block grant, we use that money for shimming and overlay roads, tree clearing, guardrail repair, roadway striping. That's what we use that money for. Our highway maintenance trust fund, again, we've been fortunate, and again, that over the years, the townspeople have supported it, and that's been $650,000 a year, which, and we've been squirreling that money away to do a large project, and that being Harvey Road culvert, which was $1.5 million. So we finally have enough money to proceed with replacing that. We were always discouraged not to go for a bond for that replacement of that culvert, so we had to keep that money squirreled away. So every year, again, the Public Works Department, myself and Paul Schatt, again, Paul Schatt has 38 years' experience with the town. I have 36 years of experience as an engineer and 21 years with the town of Londonderry. Again, Paul puts together a list, and that's a running list of what roads here in town need to be shimmed and overlaid, and take a look at reconstructing those roadways. This year, the list consisted of 25 roads in town with a value of $2 million. Obviously, we don't have $2 million. Paul does a list. I take a look at the list. Again, our experience here in town, our professional experience, we come up with what the roads are that we're going to try to tackle, that we tackle, basically. Again, our goal is always to keep the good roads in good shape and rebuild the roads which are in bad shape when the funds are for the reconstruction are allocated on a year-to-year basis. So again, in shim and overlaying a road is $180,000 a mile, and to reconstruct a road is $1.8 million per mile. So
Thank you.
that's kind of a summary of how we approach, what roads do we shim and overlay, how do we tackle our road issues. Other communities use a roadway management system. 21 years that I've been here, again, Janos and I and the highway foreman would again, just our knowledge of the road. Some of those roadway management systems, they send out a college student to go look at the road, and he classifies it, but he's looking at the surface of the road, the cracking, the rutting, and that's how he classifies that program. We're familiar enough with the road, and if there's no drainage in a road, that's what deteriorates a road, the road bed. So he might just say, let's shim and overlay the road. Well, sometimes you're just gonna be throwing good money against bad, So that's basically how we do it.
Questions?
Yeah, real quick question. I had a couple of taxpayers call me right
Yep.
up front about I think it was the shim and overlay up in Pettingill Road,
Yeah,
and they weren't happy about it.
yeah.
And I'm not an engineer, but I went up there, and I looked at it, and I said to myself, what the hell are we doing? I'll be very honest with you, I'm not an engineer, but I'm saying, we have a hell of a lot more roads that are in tougher shape than this, so I really couldn't give them a good answer.
Right.
Can you help me with that?
Yeah, so like I said, Jim, we try to, keep our good roads in good condition. Pettingill Road, we just did a traffic study up there back in March. That road experiences 8,300 vehicles a day. And again, truck traffic, very high demand in truck traffic up there. So again, when you put on a vest and walk that road, take your life in your hands, like I did, and again, you see the raveling, the rutting, the spider cracking. So again, and that's why that road was decided to, again, let's preserve that road. That's a big asset if we lose that road with all the businesses, and
Thank
so
you.
that's why Pettingill was on that list.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 5, designation of preferred area for electioneering under RSA 59:43. So, with regards to this item, we discussed this back in late May, early June, that it had been brought to the attention of the council that we were going to go out and meet at the, on the site because there were some questions around first response area, fire lanes, handicap parking, and easy access for all in and out of the gymnasium at the high school. So we went out there and we met with a number of people, the fire department, 2 counselors were there, the town moderator was there, the assistant town moderator was there. The alert team was there that handles the parking. And we took a good hard look at, our area that we use for the elections. At the presidential election, we had over 17,000 people vote. There were about 14,000 people who came through the building. And it's been brought to our attention that from a security standpoint, it is difficult for clear access for the police department and the fire department into the building. Each and every time that we have an election, the fire marshal comes over and closes the whole first lane of parking for the fire lane. At that same time, we lose all of our handicap parking. As part of where the electioneering takes place now, we also block the handicap access to the building, and that the ramp for the handicap access is not accessible for the handicapped. So what was discussed while we were there is seeing if there was a better way to do this, while at the same time giving the first responders, the fire department and the police department, clear access to the building, opening up the existing fire lanes that exist today that we shouldn't be blocking anyway, and increasing our ability to be able to have better handicap parking and better access to the building for those people coming who want to vote who are handicapped. I believe what the conclusion that took place on site is that we would bring this back to the council for discussion. We had 2 recommended areas. One was, and correct me whenever I go off the rails here, Jonathan. One was as you walk into the building, to the north side or the right-hand side of the building, there is a grassy area with some steep declines, and that there is an area that is mostly grass and dirt. The fire department and the emergency medical people said that they did not see that as their number one area from the standpoint of that they would be afraid if it rained or if someone had some sort of injury there, it's not a flat surface. Then what was brought up is being able to move that surface, that area out to the first row of the parking lot, build an area. I think we came out and we measured it. It was something like 25 by 25, something in that rough area. I see on this drawing, it's more towards the far end of the parking lot, but the discussion that took place out there was it was more towards the middle so that people could come down on both sides of it, and we were trying to figure out if that was the best way to management. What we talked about the entire time there is that we'd use the primary as a trial run so that we could work this out for the general election in November. What the main thing being is that it's been brought to our attention, life safety, access to the building, security access, medical access, and fire access. And if we're moving what we believe will be 15,000 people through the midterms through that building, we need to give them the best access possible. Jim, you were the other counselor there. Jonathan, you were there. Fire chief was there. The head of security for the election, Lieutenant Breen, was there. Is that about the summary of what was discussed?
Mr. Chairman, yes, I think that's a very accurate description of the discussions we had. I'm Jonathan Kipp, 9 Everett Street, town moderator. And we're required by statute to provide an electioneering zone that is, to the extent practical, within sight in conversation distance of the main entrance to the poles. And therefore, I support your observation that it was going to be directly opposite the front entrance to the gym, just pushed a little further away into that first row of parking spaces. We believe that gives good access of the candidates to the voters. Voters will be streaming by there, and that's the purpose, to give candidates and their representatives an opportunity to interact with voters if the voters so choose.
Right, and we also talked about bringing in Jersey barriers to put around that area to make sure that those people were safe as well.
Correct. And visibility in our parking lot is not great I'm very concerned about pedestrians wandering around and somebody getting hit. So we designate that area, and then between the electioneering zone and the front entrance, it's wide open. Alert can do their job there. I think that is the best location for it, for this trial, as you recommended.
Yeah, and what you'll see then is that the police department and the fire department will be parked in the fire lanes. I believe that's what their plan is. They may have a different plan, but I believe that that's what their intention is, at least from the discussion we had. So, the council, is up until the day the moderator, takes over the morning of the election, it's up to the council. So that's the recommendation from the first responders and from the moderator. I believe Councilor Butler and I are, at least from what we saw, we thought that was a very solid recommendation. Jim, anything further?
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing these elections for over 10 years, and there's always a constant complaints of people coming in that, candidates have gone outside the corral, and people get nervous. They get nervous there. We constantly have to go out and, try to back them off, very pleasantly back them off, and it just isn't working. Now, with everything that's happened with the shootings and all this stuff, we have to make sure we have a good line of sight for our medical and our police departments. Put in the corrals where they have been existing blocks that site. If something had happened and we had to get into that building and you had to move a lot of equipment quickly, it wouldn't happen because the candidates are there, the corrals are there, and it would be a debacle. So I'm sure we're going to take some heat for this, but I think that based on the fact that we have to think about security and we have to think about everyone, that the best thing to do is push that back and open up that front.
Yeah, and personally, the number one complaint I get is from handicap access, is that they can't use the handicap ramp. So, with that, I'll open it up to the rest of the
I mean,
council.
I think the safety aspect overrules almost everything, and I think, to your point, just being in there many times, seeing the struggle that the handicapped folks have trying to get in and out of it. I mean, we kind of stopped, a lot of times, a lot of us have stopped what we were doing to try to help them in and out, and this will really alleviate that problem. So thank you for doing that homework. I think it's a good, the yellow spot is, in my opinion, the best.
So I do have a question, Mr. Town Moderator. With the square footage of what the bullpens were prior or current, is that matched with the proposed new site?
I didn't measure them, Councilor Franz. We estimated, I think, that would actually be combined, it would be a larger size, but Chairman
did
Farrell?
measure 'em.
Oh, you did?
And we just added it up, and that's how we came up with the number.
Okay.
To make sure it was the same size.
Okay, thank you.
And again, we're gonna have to work with somebody to make sure that it's done correctly. But the intent was not to take any space away. Was to just give the police department and the fire department and the handicapped people clear access to the building.
Thank you.
I can't wait to see how that's gonna be split up, though.
You're only obligated to have one area. They'll have to.
No, I think it's great. One.
I mean, that's what the statute says.
Correct.
Just thinking, can't wait.
So,
Well, now people are going to go around it instead of going into a gauntlet.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And some people don't like that. They get very uncomfortable.
I think we can all play nice.
In the sandbox?
so we're gonna try this for the primary,
We are.
okay? then we're gonna try it for the primary, and if it, if it doesn't work, then
Back
we'll,
to the drawing board.
we'll come back and relook at it. That's all we can do. Thank you. Any other further questions?
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, waste management cost increase. It's not a public hearing, sir.
Mr. Chairman, I've come before the council a couple of times, either on other items or in my town manager report, and notified you of what I don't think would be news to anybody. Costs are going up, and that is the case for all of our vendors, for us at home as well. And so I want to make you aware of a request that we received that I've alluded to in the past, but is now ready for a council decision. And this arises from a letter we received in February from our trash and recycling vendor, Waste Management, requesting a 10% extraordinary increase in the contract price. And I want to read from the letter to frame the request so that the council has an idea what is being asked. Due to these unforeseen and extraordinary market conditions which neither party could have anticipated at the time the contract was executed in 2016, Waste Management respectfully requests an extraordinary increase of, it says 13%. We later determined that that was inclusive of what we already have contracted for, a 3% CPI adjustment, effective July 1st, 2022. This will allow Waste Management's compensation to better keep pace with Waste Management's operating costs to provide critical services in your community. Although many of Waste Management's contracts include annual price adjustment mechanisms, in most cases, those mechanisms do not provide an adjustment to offset the inflationary pressures Waste Management has absorbed over the past year. For that reason, we are respectfully requesting this immediate relief. The letter, Mr. Chairman.
I'm sorry, didn't we renegotiate with them last year?
There was a separate renegotiation that took place in 2019, is my understanding, based on entirely separate factors. That was.
They wanted to extend the contract even further, right?
And we did. In exchange for granting concessions to Waste Management at that time, based on the complete collapse of the recycling market, as I understand it.
I remember.
They did agree to additional extensions or options that the town could exercise. This is apples and oranges. This is based on cost and inflation indices.
Yeah, fuel and labor costs.
As you point out, double-digit figures. We have a contract with them. Currently, it runs through 2026, as you alluded to. The contract does include annual inflation increases that are capped at 3% and tied to CPI. The contract also includes what's referred to as a force majeure clause. A force majeure clause relieves a party of its obligation to perform under the contract if there is an unforeseeable event that was not foreseen at the time the parties entered into the contract. The letter makes specific reference to that language that's contained in the contract. We met with Waste Management. We've been talking with them for months and asked them to explain precisely how their costs are going up. You pointed to a couple of them, and the engineers will elaborate upon this later. Labor costs, supply chain issues that are impacting their ability to field equipment and repair that equipment on a timely basis. We also asked for data to substantiate the claims that they were making that their costs have gone up so significantly. On the legal issue, both sides have an argument that this either is force majeure or it is not. In consultation with Town Council, Mike Ramsdell, we suggest that the council should consider, instead of digging in on the legal issue, which could go either way, focusing instead on Londonderry's long-term interests. What are those long-term interests? It's maintaining the level of service that, frankly, it's taken us a while to achieve. Trash is one of those 5 things, Mr. Chairman, that you talk about so regularly. The trash has to get picked up. If it doesn't get picked up on time and in a way that's satisfactory to the residents, we're going to all hear about it. We want to keep it that way. Waste Management, we feel, has a track record of being able to go above and beyond for Londonderry. That's in part because of the proximity that Waste Management's facility has to Londonderry, being located in town. Second, to be frank, Waste Management has made it pretty clear that they're not going to stay in a contract that they're losing money on. And whether that occurs this year under force majeure, or if that occurs next year on some other basis, we are confident, given the tumultuous market that we are experiencing at this point in time, if we had to rebid this contract tomorrow, it would be a significant increase over and above what we have negotiated with Waste Management and are suggesting you consider adopting tonight. Our approach is to, instead of granting a extraordinary 10% increase to restore the contract to market conditions, to current market conditions, that we phase in and increase over time. That saves the town money. It comes at no small expense. This is our largest single contract, as the council is aware. And so I would ask the council to hear from the engineers on this. And they will talk about some of the just numbers and the scale that we're operating on here. But this increase is set forth, the proposal is set forth in the council's materials, and it would be as follows. We felt we are just underway in FY '23, and we have not budgeted for an increase. This is the same issue that arises every time we talk about something like this. And so we are sensitive to the fact that increases, we insisted that increases should be phased in over the later years of the contract to reflect the fact that we're quite concerned about the budgetary situation this year. And so what we are proposing is, and this is, as I said, set forth in the materials that the council has in front of them, a 0.5% increase in FY '23, a 6.5% increase in FY '24, a 2% increase in FY '25, and a 1% increase in FY '26. That costs the town $569,000 over the remaining life of this contract. Waste Management was asking for something far higher in the $800,000 or $900,000 range. As I said, in consultation with Attorney Ramsdell, we believe the council should consider this strongly.
So before we go into the reasons here, I just pulled up the market today. Waste Management is trading at $172.88 a share at a 52-week high. They're a $15 billion company with a $71 billion market cap. Their revenues year over year are up 12%. Their net income year over year is up 67%. And they're crying poverty.
Corporate greed.
I mean, I get it. We're stuck between a rock and a hard place. But them's the numbers.
Can't you use, what was the term that you talked about before? Can't you use that as some of the?
Force majeure?
Yeah.
Yes, I mean, there is a legal argument that that concept doesn't apply here. What the four of us are suggesting is we need to take a long view here, and that is Waste Management delivers that level of service that frankly has not been the norm over the years. It has taken a ton of effort. These guys talk with them almost every week just to maintain that level of service where it is. These decisions are not made, wherever Waste Management corporate is. They look at it contract by contract, and are we making or are we losing money on each contract?
Right, they run a profit center.
I think they're losing money on this contract at this point in time, based on these factors that I would like John and Bob to drill down on it a little
Yeah,
bit.
before they get to that, a real quick question. Why wouldn't we, I mean, in any business, right? I mean, we all say we like to try to do, run this as like a business. Any business, you would, when somebody comes up like that for 13%, the next phone call I'd be making is to all the people that compete with them. At least give me some idea of what's going on here, because, yeah, I mean, these guys have been doing a really good job, but we also been paying them really, really well. So I think that we can talk about it, but I think that's the first thing you gotta do. I mean, you gotta start talking to see what your options are, because, yeah, I mean, I understand they've been great service, but 13%, that's with the information we've had. Anyway, I just
Their
wanted
stock's
to.
up 10% in the last 2 weeks. They must be doing a real good job at all this renegotiation.
Because they're negotiating with all the other towns and doing the same force my hand, I'll get out of the contract type of threat. But when any vendor threatens me, like I said, I go to see what my other options are. That's just, I wanted to throw that out there.
Happy to, we're definitely going to listen to you guys. I just find it all sort of interesting, that they're making more money than they've ever made. Just sort of interesting. But thank you for your patience.
I think the service
A
details.
couple of points just on that last comment and question. Being in the private side for over 30 years before I came over to the town, Bob Kerry, environmental engineer, by the way. Business units have to stand on their own. And in
Profit centers, right.
corporations, as you know, in corporations, the corporation can be making a lot of money, but it's the business unit that stands on its own. And in conversations with the management, that business unit is under a microscope right now for profitability, the residential collection market itself. They make a lot of money on their commercial accounts, they make a lot of money on their landfills and their marketing of the products, et cetera. But the residential collection is a troubled right now, a troubled business unit. So with that said, as town manager had originally said, the primary goal for us was to affordably maintain the current level of service that the town is used to. It's a very visible service, as we all know. It stops at every resident once or twice a week, depending on if it's a recycle or if it's week or if it's not. Current contract that started in 2016 is actually the largest scope of trash and recycling services that has ever been performed by a contractor in this town. When we increased the scope tremendously when we brought on the automated recycling. Just to give you an idea of the scope or the size, we're going to collect this year over 9,000 tons of trash and over 2,700 tons of recycled material. And we're going to do that in this way. We have 9,000 plus 65-gallon trash carts out there and 9,000 plus 95-gallon recycle carts. That's a total of 18,000 carts that are distributed throughout the town. Approximately 1,350 collections occur every week. And municipal and schools contribute another 65 dumpsters and carts, which need to be emptied every week. Condos and apartment complexes contribute another 145 dumpsters and carts that need to be emptied every week by Waste Management in this case. The cart collection itself, the curbside, takes 3 trucks to run 5 daily routes. You have your Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday routes. 3 trucks the entire week, the entire 5 days to do that. They start at 7, they finish whenever that day to get that route done. 1 additional truck has to run through the town all week to collect the dumpsters and empty the dumpsters too. In addition to that, Waste Management staff is assigned to cart maintenance, deliveries, repairs, swap outs, and storage of all those carts that are in waiting to be deployed or be used to be replaced when carts get damaged or need repair. Frankly, looking at that and looking at the possibility of reducing the service, we don't see any practical way, as the town manager had alluded, that we can really reduce the service and maintain the level of service of the people. We can't just not pick up on Fridays and leave the Friday people and then skip the people once every week. That just can't be done. Just real quick, the contract structure that was set up and is in place, it was designed to be fair to all parties by minimizing uncertainties and risks. Right off the bat, the cost of the collection was separated from the cost of the tonnage disposal. There are scheduled, as the town manager alluded, there's scheduled cost increases for the collection and for the tonnage. There's an additional collection fee that's allowed for newly constructed residents. Since this contract started, we've brought on 509 new homes, newly constructed homes, not to mention scores of multifamily units where dumpsters are serviced. So all of them being fair with them, there's a cost of fuel adjustment clause that's built into the contract. So if it was based on a certain price per gallon, and as the price for a while in the contract, we were actually getting credits. When the price was lower than that, now, of course, we're paying for it, but we're fortunately able to budget for that. And as I say, these enable the contractor to develop pricing that they didn't have to worry about building in uncertainties and padding, if you will, for that. It was as lean as the pricing could be. Challenges tonight, or why are we here tonight? The challenges that they've run into, as we've said, COVID-19, nobody saw it coming. They have CDL driver shortage nationwide, as we're all painfully aware, if anybody is involved in shipping or waiting for things. Wage increases, they were forced to bring their wage increases. Wages are up. They were up $100,000 over 1 year. Maintenance costs of the trucks, they couldn't get parts for them. They started having to go to the dealerships and take pieces off of trucks that were in the lots to do that. Things that used to take them 2 days were now taking them 3 and 4 weeks to get parts for. Supply line disruptions, they at one point were very close to having to shut down because they could not find diesel fuel additive, which is the trucks will not run without it. The list goes on. Delivery delays, cost increases at both their landfill to manage their landfill and their material resource facilities. All wages, personnel, fuel, et cetera, on that. And basically, those are, and they weren't any different than any other industry. They're basically any of the transportation type industries were running into that same situation.
See, but Bob, here's the thing. He brought up the competitor, so I looked up Republic Services. They're at a 52-week high at $146. They have a $46 billion market cap, $10 million in revenue. Their revenues are up 21%. Their net income is up 12%. I understand, and I understand what you're saying and what we're sort of in a position of that we don't have a whole lot of choices.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tough pill to swallow when these guys are making money, more money than they were making before COVID.
Well, I think the other thing,
So it's a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the other thing that was illustrated by Bob too is that we're a pretty important client of theirs. So, you know, that's really what that told me, more than anything, is that, you know, again, I just caution us to not be afraid, you know. This is just something that we need to talk about and really look at some competition and see what they're gonna offer us. So, very important.
Thank you, John. I have a couple of questions. And first, I'm just going to say.
Sorry to interrupt you. Sorry, please proceed.
Okay.
That's fine. It's a conversation.
I agree that we need to look at other companies. So how often, my questions are, how often do we go out to bid for this? When was the last time we did it? And is a lot of this based on the weight in what they're collecting, how much weight we deliver to them, not necessarily the pickups? Are we being charged per house pickup or by the amount that they're dumping in their site? And then I guess, you know, with the growth of this town, new buildings being added, where's our plan? Where's our plan to deal with this trash? A, the drop-off center, and B, the pickup service. Where is our 5, 10, 20-year plan as we grow? What are we doing to be proactive so that we don't get caught like this? Those are my questions, and I'd like to hear what you have to say. Thank you.
I think, again, Bob
So
was.
the answer part of your question is, that's why we signed a 10-year contract with them. It's so that we weren't in this position. But part of what they're trying to explain to us is the marketplace has changed. And what they're trying to, listen, it's not that I agree. The marketplace has changed, and if you go to Republic Services, what they're sort of telling us is if we're paying $1 with Waste Management, we're gonna pay $2 with Republic Service if we go out to bid.
So there's only two, John? There's only two companies in the state of New Hampshire that pick up?
There's 3 or 4, and I can assure you that their pricing is going to be higher.
So we did them a solid by signing a 10-year contract, and then they turned around and bit the hand that fed them over 10 years quite comfortably. Is that what I agree with Joe. We should not be so nice.
Renegotiated again for the 3% annual increase.
But I'm talking about the future. We need to be
No,
better.
I'm saying that has happened after we executed that contract.
So let me ask you guys a question. We did this a couple of years ago. How much does it cost per household for trash? It was around $280 a
Yeah.
couple of years ago.
Yep.
So $280 your tax bill paid for your trash and recycling pickup. That was a couple of years ago. What is it now?
Right now, it would be $16.40 a month, times that by 12, per household.
So I'm looking at $210.
Correct.
Under $4 a week.
Yeah, well, about $3.78.
So if I went to private cart service, I'd be looking at $30 a month, $40 a month
Correct.
per house, if
We-
people had to go to private service.
Mr. Chairman, we ran the number for the worst case at the end of this contract with the proposed solution, if you will. That, and it would be $20 a month at the end of fiscal year '26 with these increases that town manager has explained. $20 a month, or translated to $4.61 a week. Less than $1 a week difference.
Yep. And I understand the numbers and everything, I just don't like the way it's being done. I guess at least that's my point
So,
of
so
view.
it is by household that we get charged, not by weight. Is that correct?
It's both, Counselor. It's both. There's a separate charge. There's a separate charge. There's a
I'm
separate-
sorry.
No, that's okay. There's a separate charge for the collection and the transportation of the materials. And then there's another charge for the tonnage, the actual weight of the materials.
And that's in that $20 a month? Is the
All of
average
that.
of it?
Recycling and trash, collection, transportation, and disposal, $20 a month.
And that's for residents and for the dumpsters is $20?
Correct. Any residents, whether they're the curbside carts or whether they're the dumpsters.
So then, clarifying question, if I may. So if it's a 10-family unit and they have a dumpster, it would be 20 times 10 is what you're averaging, correct?
If there were 10 residential units,
Okay,
yes.
thank you, thank you.
We did that analysis, as you know, a few years ago to just see where we were with that.
Right.
And Mr. Chairman, you're right. If you went to a private hauler, it's substantially more than that.
Yeah, I had a private hauler 15 years ago, and he charged me $20 a month 15 years ago.
Can we lower the
It's-
weight at all?
Another concern.
30 years ago, he charged me $20.
Another concern, Mr. Chairman, is that there are some of the smaller trash collection companies. Several have gone under in the last couple of years, and they've been bought by some of the other bigger guys. But that's really not good news for anyone, because those smaller contractors could handle the smaller jobs that now have to be spread out amongst the bigger guys, who are gonna look for more money.
So I'm basically backed into the same corner I am with the town, not me. The town is backed into the same corner that we are with Comcast. We have one single delivery service, like Comcast is the only cable company in town. So we do a 10 or 12, I think we did a 12-year contract with them. We basically have one provider for trash. And in your opinion, both of you, in your opinions, is that if we went out to bid, we would be looking at something significantly higher.
Absolutely.
And to answer your questions, Deb, this was originally bid, Bob, back in 2016.
Yeah.
Right? So that's when, it was originally bid back in 2016,
Okay.
okay? It will be rebid when the end of this contract.
Okay.
What our plan for the growth is, Deb?
Yeah.
For us to actually man a trash pickup truck, as Bob says, so there's 3 trucks every day that goes through this town. So again, for us to buy 3 trash trucks, a mechanic, a facility to maintain those vehicles, and then where do we bring it? Again, different, Waste Management brings it to their transfer station, and then they own the landfill in Rochester.
Yeah.
So that's where the waste goes. But for us to permit a landfill in the town of Londonderry,
It's not gonna
I
happen.
cannot see that
understand.
happening.
So is there any way that we could lower the weight?
Well, that's.
Like if we lowered our weight, if our monthly weight that they were collecting went down,
But
would our prices go down?
we make that effort with the recycling right now.
Okay.
There's a different cost for the tonnage for trash. It's more expensive than the tonnage for recycling. So it has always been our intent to try to divert as much of the, from out of the trash.
I do understand, believe
Right.
it or not. So what if we were to augment that with, I know that there's some composting where they pick up swill, for lack of better words, food byproducts, things like that. They put it into a compost and then you can resell the swill back for a profit, the compost back for a profit. Have we looked at like encouraging people to take the swill, which is probably the heaviest part of their trash, out and separate it, or no?
We've
I'm
looked
just
at that
throwing
in
an
theory.
idea
with-
at you, I don't know.
We've looked at that in theory with the Solid Waste Commission, Solid Waste Committee, some of the discussions on how to divert more, and one of them is food waste. The unfortunate thing is, though, if we wanted to do a town-wide food waste collection, that would be another set of containers that would then have to be picked up also separately.
What if we had that as part of our dump? Can't do it.
Can't do it. The permitting, it would be very difficult because you're dealing with something called putrescibles, which is like the landfills. It's rancid ripe. Our
I'm just trying
drop-off
to
center
think
right,
out,
our
trying to
drop-off center
think
right now is
creatively.
basically inert material that doesn't need any special permitting.
And we did reach out to those people up in Manchester that do that, composting.
Yeah, we did. But any large-scale diversion of the food waste is going to require another set of containers, and somebody's got to pick them all up. So your collection and transportation, we're just not sure if the numbers are going to work.
And who would actually participate in that?
I don't know, I'm throwing out thoughts to try to lower
Yeah,
a
we-
cost.
We hear you, and we're just.
Flat forehead
discussion.
here, flat forehead.
Yep.
So we've been trying to figure it too.
Just throwing it out there.
Questions?
Oh, did we look into the cloth thing too? Picking up of rags and material?
There actually, Counselor, there are a number of containers out there already, scattered throughout town. That's another thing we looked at with the Solid Waste Committee. And,
I can't make the meetings because they're the same time as this one.
yeah, but we've looked into that. There's surprisingly amount out there. And once again, it comes down to,
No
if
one
we
knows
could
about
convince
it
people
because
to
it's
bring
not
them
publicized, yeah.
someplace, that's one thing. But if you collect them, once again, we've got the collection issues and some sort of container pickup.
Okay.
I got one more thought.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
I'm
Derry has Derry does a kind of like a dumpster diving kind of store thing where one man's trash is another man's treasure. People are allowed to come in and go through the bins and take out things and pay to take it out. Have we ever thought about taking money from people to get rid of some of our heavy waste?
Well, they have a different facility. over there.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got a transfer station that's open 5 days a week, staffed by probably close to 15-plus people with operators, et cetera. Safety comes into mind right off. with the drop-off center, we want to get the people safely in and out as quick as we can. Some places have what's called a swap shop in some of the smaller towns, and it
Yeah.
turns into a social gathering. We don't have the room, nor do we want the liability to have people hanging around down there when we really just want to get the traffic in and out as fast as possible.
And how many people do we have at our station?
We have
Employees?
Huh?
Employees?
Well, how many are there? Like, if I was to go there, what day is today? On Wednesday, how many people would I find?
You'd find 2 part-time attendants, and everybody that works down there has to be certified by the state of New Hampshire, they have to be solid waste certified. So you'd find 2 part-time attendants, you'd find 1 equipment operator that's working to pack down the roll-offs, and usually another person to help out also. So there'd be a maximum of 4 people down there, and part of that is for safety also.
Like I said, I'm just throwing ideas out, looking at what other towns are doing, and trying to repurpose some of this trash that we have.
We actually do make money in that center, right?
That's correct. It runs at a loss because years ago, we didn't want to set the pricing to where it was so expensive that it would end up on the side of the road. So there was a happy medium that we have to set there. But the meadows do make money. That's a source of some credit, the scrap metal that we collect. But so we do collect fees, obviously, but it's not a moneymaker.
Okay, you need a decision tonight?
No, Mr. Chairman, first of all, this isn't news that we've been looking forward to delivering, but we've given you our best recommendation based on our experience and the consultations that we've had with Attorney Ramsdale and with Waste Management. That being said, I can read a room pretty well, and if the sense of the meeting is that this is a no, I would respectfully request that you hear Attorney Ramsdale's assessment of the litigation risk before taking that vote.
I think the consensus I'm hearing is go find out what the best deal is and bring it back to us and we can talk about it some
Yeah,
more.
that's step 1. We haven't gone to step 1 yet.
I mean, if what the best deal is what, I mean, if you go back and they say, okay, well, I guess we'll,
I mean, think about what you're saying, all right? There's 5 people here representing all those people out there. And we're just supposed to say, 13%, let's have an increase without doing what anybody else would do. Let's get some quotes. Let's look at it from that perspective. I mean, that's step 1, so.
So can,
13% salary increase, so.
the other side to it is for.
How are they gonna pay for it?
$17 a household. I have
Money's
a real
tight,
hard
yeah,
time
guys.
explaining to people why their trash isn't being picked
Money's
up.
tight, yep. Yeah, that's the other side of
So
it.
let's go find out what the best deal is.
Hey, John, who handles the dumpsters at the stump dump? Is it
Waste management?
Waste Management? does?
Yeah. The metals is Schnitzer?
The metals are managed by the NRRA, which is, they're a broker for Snitzer Steel is the one that does the metal. And that waste management contract is a different contract. It's a separate
That's,
contract for the drop-off centers.
That's not a
and
residential
What we're discussing
contract?
here.
Correct.
can I chime in here?
Please?
We've mentioned that it's 13% increase. That's what they originally wanted. In year 1, they wanted 13%. We've worked it down to 10% spread out over the next 4 years.
Just want to confirm that that's the best deal.
Yep. Nope, I keep hearing 13% increase. We've already knocked that down from
I understand.
what they requested.
But I think the plan made a lot of sense because, as you just said, we haven't budgeted it, so
Yep.
accepting at least 0.5 to kind of get it rolling, and then we can put it into the budget for prior years. I mean,
Correct,
the second or third or fourth time that we're going to visit this, I'm sure, will be some kind of a combination like that, but that was great to be able to spread it out. I think that's.
Yep. And the other thing to keep in mind
Strategy.
is, right now, it doesn't seem like it, but fiscal year 24 through 26, it is a 4% tied to CPI increase. So if CPI is 0, you're only looking at, let's look at year 25, you're only looking at a 1% increase.
Based on current facts, I'm not
That's why I'm
not
saying, based on
dreaming
right
about
now, I don't
zero
really,
CPI
I
anytime
don't believe that, but that is a little safety that we tried
That whole
building in.
gas conversation we had
That-
during the
But
budget.
that's, you're taking into consideration that they would accept those terms too, so that's the other thing.
Right.
So-
Let's see what they come back with. Let's see if that's what the best deal is. Not to beat a dead horse here, but you know,
Here's one more.
when their financials are so good, and I understand the concept of profit center, it's a tough pill to swallow.
Did you get one more over here?
I have one more question,
Yes,
if you don't
please
mind.
proceed.
Do we use local people? For example, you know, do we, for the chipping and stuff like that, the wood products, does it go to a local business? And like the metal, is that going to like either Murray's or Hall, S&S or a local metal guy?
So the wood chips, Deb?
Yeah.
Again, we put that out to bid, because nobody's gonna take that for nothing. So M&R has that contract to go to the site, pick up the brush and dispose of it. That's how that is taken care of.
And we pay him to do that, or he does it for free because he can resell it?
No, we pay. Yeah, it's a business to get into. And then as far as metals, again, we deal with NRRA. Yeah, so we do get monies for the recycling of those materials.
Right, but I was just wondering if we would use local businesses.
We put it out to bid. Highly unlikely that Murray's or the
S&S?
S&S would be able to do that, Deb, because again,
Again, I'm just trying to make sure that our local businesses are getting first bids on or preferred customers.
Yeah. And we publicly
To
advertise
make sure
it.
they stay alive.
Yeah, we publicly advertise it.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Thanks, John. So we got Dave with the DPW website next. We're gonna skip over number 9 tonight. That's,
It's late.
Fine with me.
yeah, I'm gonna table that till the next meeting. Hi, Dave.
Good evening. Dave Wally, Director of Public Works Municipal Facilities. Try and be brief. I know you got a long agenda ahead of you still and yet to go, but essentially, on April 6th, the town manager gave us a little bit of direction after discussion with the board about updating our websites and making sure that pertinent information is out there and illustrating what our departments do across the town. With that direction, we had a kickoff meeting on May 3rd with staff to go ahead and look at what we have on the site and also try to also clarify how the new structure is working with Division of Public Work, Department of Public Works, and adding on municipal facilities to that and streamlining engineering and environmental services. And we had several meetings over the last several months, presented that to the town manager in early August. And on the 8th of last week, we actually made it public. We didn't make it a public announcement until tonight, but I'm very proud of the way that it came out. I'd really like to thank Donna and Denise in the office and Tom and Doug from IT that helped us facilitate and put this all together. We all worked together very well collaboratively in looking at what information we wanted out there, some frequently asked questions. So I just encourage you to check out the new site and look at it. All the different divisions are broken out, and we could have had a tutorial going here tonight, but in the interest of time, I just encourage you to take a look at it, and then if you have any comments or feedback that you'd like to send back, and we'd like to really make sure that we're going to be using it more actively, and there are a lot of things that are coming up with winter and things of that nature that we plan to publicize on the website as well. So that's
Any
it.
questions for Dave?
Can we send those comments to you?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay, Dave, while you're still here,
Yep.
let's go ahead and take care of the order you have for us.
Absolutely.
So I have Order 2215.
Actually, the number that was provided me was 15, but I believe it ended up being 16.
Yep.
Is the way that it was written
Change
up
here?
after the fact, yeah. So my description said 15, but the actual order is 16.
And this is for $3,922.68.
That's correct. With the severe heat that we've had and been experiencing, we had an unfortunate circumstance happen to the air conditioning unit over at Central Fire Station due to some dirt, dust, and pollen and whatnot being built up on the housing of the compressor and whatnot. It resulted in a failure. And unfortunately, with some of the parts that were backlogged and whatnot, it took us a couple weeks to even get those parts in. We utilized the contractor that did the install when the building was built, as their availability and familiarity with the system was perhaps best at the time. And it being an emergency when it was 90-plus degree heat in this area of the building that it services are the bunkhouses. So for the firefighters to sleep in 84 degrees at night was not too pleasant for them to recharge for the job that they do. Provided a backup of the invoice as well. Materials and parts total $2,313.93. Sent along an itemized copy of the invoice too. Hopefully you all got that. Initially I had just a lump total, but the itemization is there. And then labor for this job over the 2 weeks that it took to fix it was $1,608.75 for a total of $39,2268.
Questions?
Yeah, question. Dave, it's relatively a new unit, when you think about it. So I'm a little discouraged about that. A couple of things. Where is that unit located? Is it indoors, outdoors?
No,
and
it's
is it covered?
It's on the exterior of the building, on the north side, Sergeant Road side.
And is it covered?
Well, it's covered in the type of
elements?
housing that's typical for it. You don't typically enclose those because you want them to breathe and, you know.
I'm talking about something, a lean-to coming off the building.
No, it doesn't have anything like that, no.
Maintenance on that. What is the maintenance procedure for that?
So the facility, or the HVAC for the fire department overall, right now does not have a maintenance contract. And so that is something that we have to have a larger discussion about moving forward. Obviously, everything needs maintenance. It's a sophisticated system and facility, and so we're now entertaining the idea of maintenance contract, perhaps even, you know, globally for the town, so that we don't have all these various vendors all over the place, and that's something that we're gonna have to work on going forward. And also find places to appropriate and fund for that as well. So there's gonna be some larger discussion coming up about maintenance contracts. Where do we pay for them? Do we want them paying out of each individual department? Do we think that's something that should come out of the maintenance trust fund? So those types of budgetary decisions are something that's gonna be upcoming with this next budget process.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anything else? I'll accept a motion to approve Order 2022-16.
So moved.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative, and that's approved. I'm going to table Resolution 22, thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
I'm going to table Resolution 22, 2022-14 with an update to the policy of harassment and reporting procedures. I had a discussion with the town attorney, and I understand he had a discussion with the HR director, and I think this was supposed to be pulled. There's some, some parts of it were very easily understood. There were other parts of it that they were going to further discuss, what I was told. So, table that one. Let's move to old business. Follow up on strategic goals discussion.
Mr. Chairman, I won't spend too much time on this one. I think the council should retain this on old business. As you know, the council directed me to develop strategic goals in consultation with the department heads. And we presented to you, the assistant town manager and I, a presentation and a report containing those strategic goals for this year and the coming years. A little bit's changed, as you noted last time, Mr. Chairman, with the assistant town manager's departure. And so we are in the process of trying to move the pieces around to make sure that we're able to cover the functions that the chief formerly covered, as also the HR director, while also addressing the need for that assistant town manager position. And I think there's different ways to do it that might allow us to move in directions that we're looking to move. And so I think probably it's best to have that discussion at the same time that we we return to these strategic goals.
Okay. That's fine. Okay. Any questions for anyone? Briefing of handling of animal control calls. Deputy Chief Bernard.
And Mr. Chairman, just to tee this one up, I asked the deputy chief to be here based on the council's feedback at our last meeting, wherein there was a lot of discussion about the handling of ACO calls, the new ordinance, and sort of what the approach is towards enforcement over at the PD.
Thank you.
Thank you. Back on the July 11th meeting, we had a couple residents complain that they felt they weren't, the service wasn't good. I just want to let you know that I did follow up with Animal Control Officer Dave Carver in reference to one lady who expressed her displeasure. I looked her up, and we never had a specific call that I can relate to with her, unfortunately. So I did speak with Dave at great length about her concern, and there may be some confusion from ACO Carver versus ACO Bennett. So I just want to I want to back up a little bit and help explain that. So ACO Bennett left in 2020, and ACO Carver, did not start until August of 2020. Back then, Animal Control Officer was dealing with 435 calls at that time. Dave now has been there for 2 years, part-time, 24 to 26 hours a week. In 2021, he's handled 505 calls by himself, one ACO part-time. Of those calls, he was dispatched to 125 of those. And he had 95 follow-ups with those. As of 8/1/22, we are currently at close to 300 calls for service for the Animal Control Officer, again, part-time. So far, 60 calls he's been dispatched to and 57 recorded follow-ups. The calls that are logged are simple. A resident calls with a concern to dispatch, and dispatch enters it in. And it's either if the AC is on duty, he gets them. If he's not on duty, it goes to patrol personnel. And I said in that last meeting, patrol personnel has to manage the priorities of calls. The patrol officers do a great job at holding down the fort for the animal control officer until he's back on. That could be anything from taking a basic barking dog complaint. It could be to taking the first steps in a dog bite situation. Just so we have some clarity here, when the animal control officer takes a dog bite report, it's not as simple as any one of us sending a 2-second email. This takes hours. It takes 3 or 4 hours for completion. People may not realize that. He has to track down the person who owns the dog. He has to follow up with the hospital, whomever reported that, and that may be in Derry. It could be any other hospital for that matter. So then he has to determine based on prior history. We have to quarantine that dog for 10 days. Animal control calls are anything from a loose dog to a barking dog to leash restrictions. The last meeting we had, we were discussing the amendment to the ordinance. Since then, the Animal Control Office has worked very closely with the town clerk to come up with a solution. And again, like we discussed before, how do we balance the needs of our community? We want to treat everybody fair. We don't want to give everybody a ticket. And there were some residents in that meeting that discussed that they thought the fines were very light. We understand that. And we said that we will support whatever decision you folks bring to us. We will support the town manager's direction and assist the town clerk with enforcing those. The unregistered dogs, believe this or not, there was like 5,600, and we're down to only 160-ish who have not registered their dogs yet. So in the downtime, if there is such a thing in a part-time animal control officer's job, he needs to drive to these residents' homes, inform them that they are in violation, go back if they're not there and follow up, write a little synopsis about that. He has to maintain and clean 6 stalls out back every time we take a dog in. That's a runaway or a stray or abandoned. He needs to desanitize or sanitize those areas all the time. He has to go out, pick up food and supplies for his position to take care of those animals that are in need. And those things don't just happen in a short 3 to 4 hour window. This is something that he has to do for 3 days a week when he's in our department, serving our community, 3 days a week. I do believe that our animal control officer does an outstanding job. And I really honestly stand here today and believe that the past displeasure that a few residents have had was from our former animal control officer. As the town manager pointed out the last time, when citizens don't feel they were treated correctly by any one of our officers, they call us, file a complaint. We will take care of it. We will look into it. I have not had one, not one, in 2 years as the operation commander, and Dave Carver falls within my bureau. Not one. So I will always entertain those. I will always hear the community if they have a problem. And lastly on that, I just want to talk about some of these. We have a chicken update. I thought it would be appropriate to just give you a little heads up on that. As we stood here last time, we asked about, what type of calls of service would happen, complaints, dogs being a menace, I think you said, Deb. And so far, we're looking all right. We've only had a couple noise complaints from roosters. We've had a couple calls where the dogs got loose and, no kids in here, right? All right, and killed a couple chickens, roosters. So Dave has made, efforts with that to talk to the chicken owners and the dog owners and try to resolve these things without it getting out of control. So happy to report that the chicken ordinance is good. No complaints on that. And again, Dave also helps out with rabies clinics. Dave has been asked to help in other communities because he does such a great job. So while I will stand here and say that I support our ACO, I also support the community and you folks up there. If there is something that you feel your police department is not doing, by all means, you call and I will answer and we will address them. I hope this answers the request that you guys have asked me to provide, and anything further, I'd be happy to look into it for you.
Any questions?
I have not a question, but thank you. Do you guys work with the Greater Derry Humane Society for dog food and caring of a dog over, like just say the winter, right? Instead of putting them in the pen, work with, because I know the Derry Police works with them, and I was just thinking it might save him some time and a few dollars in food and whatever.
Great question, Deb. Our animal control facility out back is very good. It's if you guys recall, when that building was put in place, there's very nice kennels in there.
Oh, okay.
They have heat. There's a door that Dave can open, and the dogs can come in and out as they please.
Okay.
He cleans the area where the dogs relieve themselves out back. They're in the shelter in the winter, and they don't go out. But just to make you feel better about this, even when Dave is not here and he leaves after his 3 days a week, if we have a dog in custody, as we would call it, if we're housing someone's dog or a dog's been naughty, we have so many animal lovers in that police department that they go out back and check on this thing. It doesn't matter if it's 3 a.m.
Okay.
People will go back there and take care of those dogs. So it is a great question. And then he holds them for his period of time in which he needs to. But most of the time, people don't go long without missing their dog, and they come down and get them.
All right, well, and I still think we should have a relationship with, just to help find owners, because a dog could wander from Derry to Londonderry very easily.
Absolutely.
That's all. Good job.
Jim? So like a good book, I was reading what you were saying. Are you foreshadowing an increase in budget for that position?
Sir, not at all. And I'm not up here trying to put that in anybody's head at this moment. I just wanted you folks to realize, and which I know that you do, but a lot of our community may not know that. So I want to emphasize the 3 days a week. There is enough work there for a full-time person. We are very aware, as people have made reference tonight, about a recession. We're not going to ask community to give us anything more than they already have. Hear you loud and clear. We will manage with what we have. We will be responsible in that. So no, I will not be coming back for more ACO personnel.
Didn't mean to put you on stage there, but I know.
It's all good, sir.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Anything else? Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Forest Hills abatement update. Hi, Steve.
I lost my notes, now I have nothing to say, so.
Okay,
Okay,
next,
next one is
next item, number 4.
discussion of possession tax.
You knew that was too good to be true. Mr. Chairman, members of the council, good evening. Thank you for having me. I have just a brief update, as brief as I can, on the Forest Hills abatement and
It
assessment
must be good because they're not here.
for 2020.
Good observation. Oh, thank you, sir.
Okay, so as we all recall, the 65 units of 55-plus detached condominiums known as Forest Hills of Londonderry had expressed a lot of concerns raised in the abatement process. There were 39 abatements that had been filed for 2021. The primary concerns of the taxpayers were that the values were too high compared to the sales that had happened, that there hadn't been enough sales in the complex to accurately establish the values, and that there had not been any sales of garage under units. Most of the units there have garages that are at grade level, but there are several that have garages under, and there's a distinctly different value for those, as the target for these properties are people who are looking towards having a single level of living area, including a garage space. We had proceeded to inspect as many of the units as we possibly could. We inspected about 40 of the 65 units. And we became aware of some errors that had been evident in the physical descriptions of the units. Those errors were caused both by a data conversion from the prior CAMA system, as well as the missing adjustment for that garage under type unit. In the prior action of the council, 38 of the 39 abatement requests were granted. And upon recalculation of the values, 64 of the 65 properties, which are all listed on that spreadsheet, have had an adjustment to the 2022 assessed value, which will be reflected in the final notice of tax in December. The one unit in the complex that increased slightly by $6,600 was due to some additional features that had not been known prior to the inspection of the unit. And that was the same unit that received no abatement in the process. So of all of the units, there was about a $2 million reduction in the assessed value of the aggregate of all of the assessments. About 1.6 million of that reduction was reflected in the abatements that had been granted. So for the other units, there was an additional $400,000 reduction. Overall, the largest change was a 30% reduction in some of those garage under units. The median change was at about 5%, and the average change was about 7%. I think that we have established a very fair, albeit imperfect, set of values for this process. Doesn't provide any pathway for perfection, but we think that we have a very accurate description of each of the units, and that accurate description has led to a much more reliable set of values.
Any questions?
Oh, yeah. I do. So we fixed Forest Hills, and that's wonderful. But my question is, did this happen throughout the town? Did you do a spot sampling and cross data to make sure, just making sure that this mistake didn't happen everywhere else in the town, without having to depend on people to have to check it themselves. A lot of people don't understand it. And I guess you answered my question. The first one was, how did we figure out that this happened? And how are we fixing it moving forward? And you had answered both of those questions. So to me, the only question left is, how do we know this didn't happen throughout the town? And did you do some sort of crosshatch study, data collection, sampling, to see if everything else was okay?
Sure. So it's a great question. We proceed to inspect 20% of all of the properties every year. And so we're out there right now, this week, inspecting properties in and out every week to make sure that there aren't those kinds of errors. However, there's also a randomization of sale properties that occur so that we examine the results of the analysis between an assessed value and its selling price. And so if there are those kinds of inconsistencies, that's where it will first become apparent. So we're watching that very carefully too. So we have two ways to try and cover for that. Interestingly, with the issue of the garage under units, prior to April 1st of 2021, which was the date of value, there had not been any sales of those garage under units, but in the fall of last year, there were 2 sales. And we would have noticed that inconsistency because those prices had sold far less than where our assessed values were. So the process that we have in place would have detected it, but these taxpayers did a great job of representing the issue to us.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you, Steve.
And I'm going to beg your indulgence for just a moment because you had assigned me another task, which I've completed, which is to better describe the process of requesting an elderly or disabled tax deferral.
Thank you.
And so I prepared some information to go on our website. We'll be putting it up in the next week or so. And I have a packet here for you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And very briefly, this, along with the application, which is already online on our website, will help a person apply for an elderly or disabled tax deferral. There is a worksheet that's attached to this as well, and the worksheet will be included on the website. The worksheet is going to help us to identify people who may be at jeopardy of losing their home or may have an undue hardship of meeting the burden of taxation. We're not going to require it in every application. For a lot of the people who may apply for this, we already will have known a lot about their financial condition because they will have already applied for elderly or disabled tax exemption. So this will be something that we may ask people to fill out, but it won't be required for each of the applications.
Do you think we could mail this to people with their tax bills or something that might, especially certain ones that I don't know how hard this is, but I would assume it's pretty easy if it's in Excel to sort, by people who are behind or, you've seen, so that they could get this. Because not everybody goes on the website to look or has access to a computer. We assume they do, but they don't.
Right.
And it would be nice if we could make sure that they at least had it, so we
Well, I can say two
get
things.
ahead of it earlier, maybe.
I know that it can't be mailed out with all of the tax bills.
Okay.
Because
Well,
that's.
not all of them, but
That's
the
a very
individual ones.
discrete process of mailing the tax bills. And it would be probably an increase in the cost, a dramatic increase in the cost. However, I will work directly with the collector. And for anyone who is identified as being behind,
A risk.
we can certainly help them find the information either on the website or.
Yeah,
in-
just so
If
it
this
doesn't
is
get too
mailed
far.
directly to, situations like that, could that be viewed as discriminatory or?
Well, what we would do is, there's no demand or need to approach this process. However, it's an opportunity for someone to better deal with delinquency of taxes if they would qualify. That's why I think I'll work with the collector. She often knows a lot of details about people who may be behind and may benefit from this kind of program.
Yeah. Get them before they get too deep.
Jim, I know you're going to go through this, but you mentioned a few minutes ago that it was on the website, so is there any way for just an education where exactly it would be? So for people that are listening, because I'm looking at it right now, it's not obviously apparent, so I was just wondering if you knew off the top of your head.
He hasn't put it on it
gone
yet.
up yet.
So this hasn't been posted
Okay.
yet. I wanted to give you a chance to see it before.
Where do you guys think that it might be? I mean, because
It will be on the assessor's homepage.
Great.
on-
Assessors, good, excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
I make a suggestion, maybe we look at talking to the senior center director and maybe have some type of seminar or some type of informational session up there.
Good idea.
And that's an excellent idea. The timing of that kind of a session will be most beneficial after the final notice of tax goes out, the December tax bill. And I'll be happy to reach out and make that kind of a presentation there.
That'd be
Thank
great,
you.
thank you. Seems the form is fairly self-explanatory.
So in
Asks for
terms
a lot
of,
of detailed information.
in terms of mailing this out, not to jump on Steve with it, we mail out each half of the year about 10,670 bills plus. Obviously, that amount, we're not able to do in-house, so we outsource it to a vendor who sends it. So picking and choosing which ones get it would be very cost prohibitive and difficult for them to actually be able to process and send it to the correct people. Just so you're aware.
We often have conversations with people who might benefit from this program because while they are applying for an elderly or disability exemption, they may be concerned that even the balance is too much for them to be able to afford. So we point out the processes that are
talk with
available,
you.
and this one is should be the first line of defense for people who are concerned that they may be in jeopardy of losing their house or being forced out of their house.
Good. Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Just one more comment. I just want to personally thank you because I know I pushed you really hard on this one and challenged you to come up with something. Thank you because I know I shared with you some of the calls and some of the people that actually came in and saw me. And, you know, on behalf of the council, you know, as one member, thank you for really digging into it because we need these type of things.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for the motivation.
Yep, thank you.
All set? Thanks, Steve.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next item, discussion of processing of tax payments. I don't see Allison, so I'm guessing it's you.
That would be May. All righty. So at the last meeting, as you're aware, we had a resident come in and express his concern regarding the tax bill payments. As I mentioned previously, we issue about 10,671 is what I had as a number, tax bills on June 6th with a due date of July 6th. As we know, that's not the only thing the clerks do during that time frame. The week before and the week that it's due, we end up receiving roughly about, hold on, I have it here, $24,801,370 in tax payments in just those 2 weeks alone, which just going by numbers is about 5,604 tax bills. Obviously, there's going to be a little delay. It's not ideal. We don't like it. But you have to keep in mind, during this time frame, unfortunately, our clerks were also down one staff as an individual left the town. You're looking at roughly about, it is 4 full-time and 1 part-time at that time. This gives the department roughly about 30 labor hours per day. From June 6th through July 8th, we collected approximately $41 million that was processed and sent to the bank. One of the concerns that was also brought up was, what do we do with the money? We want to get interest. We want to do all this. On July 8th, we sent 22 million, over 22 million to better interest-bearing accounts to try and work to attain more interest to hopefully lower the tax rate come tax rate setting time. Currently, the estimated revenue back in March was 60,000 for interest revenue. Based on my early calculations for July, the numbers haven't been fully reconciled yet, but I'm looking at 19,000 in July alone. So I'm expecting to be able to increase that number come tax rate setting time, which will then lower the tax rate, hopefully. In addition to that, the next week, we also collected a significant amount, and an additional 5.6 million was sent, again, to better interest-bearing bank accounts that we have.
Now, Justin, during that period of time, it's also a year-end closeout, right?
It is.
So there are a number of statutory reports that have to be completed and processed through that office at the same time.
Correct. June 30th is essentially half of the day is shut down because they have to have the numbers down for the MS-61 to be submitted to the state by September. Any numbers that influence that end up messing with the MS-61, so they have to shut it down at some point. In addition to that, just going by July 8th, by July 8th, you had 37, almost 38 million. That's about 8,571 bills that they processed. Motor vehicles during that time, they processed about 3,702 for about 765,000. This isn't including the sewer bills, any liens that they receive payments for, dogs, marriage, any vitals, anything of that nature. It's about 357 tax bills per day and about 155 vehicles per day. From July 11th through the 15th, so the week immediately following that week, which is the week after the bill is due on July 6th, they processed $6.4 million. That brings the total amount processed from June 6th through July 15th to about 44.3 million, or about 95.4% of all the tax bills. In terms of the delay, as you can imagine, when you're receiving that many tax bills, it's difficult to process them all right away, simultaneously as it comes, as well as it's difficult for the mail to bring them to us. So it could take as much as 3 to 4 days later from when you mail it, depending on when you mail it, what time, where you mail it from, all those factors. Unfortunately, we're not able to control the mail. And I know, similar to everyone else, we're struggling with labor. In addition to that, an example I can give you is July 6th tax bills that are processed. They will be processed on the 6th. The tax collector will verify them on the 7th in the morning and then send it to the bank, and they usually come early to mid-morning. The courier. The courier will then take it to the bank to process it. Depending on the size and the amount, could also depend on how long it takes the bank to process that payment. Looking at this one, the 6th deposit, which was sent to the bank on the 7th, wasn't processed until the 11th.
Now, generally, banks will hold things over $10,000, and they will take up to 3 days to process those.
Correct.
But the most important factor here, Mr. Chairman, is that neither Mr. Bouchard nor anybody else whose tax payment arrived here, and based on the factors that the finance director has mentioned, was not processed immediately, none of those taxpayers are penalized based on that delay because we use the postmark date
Correct.
for purposes of figuring any late fee or interest.
And we have looked at alternatives. We have a check scanner. However, during using the check scanner takes a significant amount of time, which takes one of the few individuals in the clerk's department essentially off the line, able to process payments and post them to the website or their account. So you're taking the person off there. It becomes a 6 to 1, half dozen to the other. What do you do there? Are there any questions regarding any of this?
I think what you said to us, though, I mean, it'd be very highly unusual for a check not to be cleared after 30 days, right? I know, what kind of, wasn't it like a month or something he said, or something?
I don't think it was quite a month.
No, I said July.
No, I'm saying, the fact is, you said there's almost no way that that could be that long, right? I mean,
Oh, right.
No, it's, if the check hasn't cleared in a month, you need to call us and you likely need to cancel that check because we have not received it.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's-
you're right.
It would be very, very highly unusual.
Yes.
Correct.
Good, thank you.
All right, so if I heard your numbers correctly, during that period of time, they were doing 550 transactions a day, 68 transactions an hour, and 13 per clerk per hour. Just
Well-
ballpark.
I actually have those numbers.
Just-
By July 8th, they were looking at about 10 tax bills as well as 5 vehicles per hour. So 15 transactions, like you were saying.
Just interesting. Any questions? Thank you. Next item, PFA update. Interestingly, I got a letter this week being inside the dissent decree saying that, from the state, saying that Golder Associates has been assigned and that people inside the dissent decree have received letters. I can verify that I did receive a letter and that they will be running the program and going to the people inside the dissent decree, installing point of entry systems. I mean, that's just the letter I got 2 or 3 days ago.
That's exactly right. So at the end of June, Saint-Gobain submitted to the state, and the state approved Saint-Gobain's plan to address PFAS contamination within the consent decree area for those residences for which there is not already a plan. And so residents like yourself, Mr. Chairman, are going to be receiving notifications from Saint-Gobain. And again, just to be really clear for everybody who's in the audience or watching on TV, we're talking about within the consent decree area only. Saint-Gobain has now said how they intend to address PFAS with respect to every address in that area. Many are point of entry treatment systems. There are actually many water line extensions that are proposed within the consent decree area. And so what we are working on actually mapping that all out so that we can wrap our heads around it as we work through these issues, and so that the public can look at it and understand it in a way that's useful. As far as the update is concerned, Mr. Chairman, that's a big piece of it. I wanted to note that I participated in, and you were there, Mr. Chairman, Councilor Paul was there, a roundtable discussion with Congressman Chris Pappas, the DES Commissioner, to discuss some of these issues. It's clear that this has their attention, that they're hearing from constituents about it, and that they're working on it quite a bit. They offered their assistance. We offered our perspective in terms of where we need to go. As I've indicated in the recent past, we've received from the state the final report, which details what a town water system might look like. And we are working with DES to try to schedule a public informational so that we can break that information down for everybody in town. The rebate program has launched. It is on the DES website. The rebate program, as a reminder, is a program that will reimburse you for, if you are outside the consent decree area, installing a POET or connecting to a municipal water source. And that's $5,000 and $10,000 respectively. If you need to talk to DES about that, you can find information on the website, or you can reach out to us if you don't use the internet or need some help getting access to that information. And lastly, we are at a stage in our work where we are working with an attorney. We are working towards getting some consulting assistance from an engineering consultant. But we are unfortunately at that stage of the negotiations where we can't talk about everything that we're doing behind the scenes. And that, as you know, Mr. Chairman, it goes part and parcel with the attorney-client privilege and wanting to preserve our room to maneuver here. Suffice it to say, we are working every day on this, behind the scenes, with good qualified people, and we are trying to strike the best deal for the people of Londonderry. That is the PFAS update, and I'm happy to take any questions that the council has.
It is and it isn't. I know that Mr. Dolan has had some issues health-wise, and he was appointed by us to sit on a water board that represents the health issues that are being brought up, and unfortunately, he has not been able to attend any of the meetings since December, and I am hoping that we can reappoint somebody else who can attend these monthly meetings to make sure that Londonderry is heard, because the cancer rate is very, very, very high in the town of Londonderry, and this is a very important water board for us to participate in. Right now, Ron Dunn is the only one, I believe, who is going on a monthly basis. I have not been able to. I go sporadically now, but I really think we need to have another person on this board. Thank you.
Perhaps you can contact State Representative Dolan and check in on his status.
I'd be happy to.
Okay, anything else?
Not for me on that item, Mr. Chairman.
All right, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes for July 11th, 2022 as in our packet.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Minutes are passed. I'll accept a motion to approve the following. Appointment of Brian Pataglia as a full-time member, 4-year term on the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission, and Jeff Penta as a alternate member for a 1-year term on the Southern New Hampshire Planning Commission.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative.
Mr. Chairman, one more item to be cleaned up. At the last meeting, Lee Jeffers was appointed to a full-time seat on the Heritage Committee. Based on the information that staff supplied to the council at the time, turns out there was no full-time seat that was open. It was a part-time seat, an alternate seat, I'm sorry. And I would just ask the council to clarify that he was in fact appointed to an alternate seat.
I'll accept a motion to amend the prior motion from the July 11th meeting to nominate gentleman's names Lee
Jeffers.
Lee Jeffers to the alternate seat on the Heritage Commission versus the full-time seat.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. Liaison reports. Anything to report?
I attended the Senior Affairs Committee meeting, and we are continuing to plan our, actually, we have a booth at Old Home Day, which is going to be really good, and also continue to plan our expo. And thanks for the support from the council and Mike for working really, really hard at this process and trying to make it a reality. I know we still have to post on our website, and if we could put something like really blatant on the front page, that'd be really good.
Yep.
So that we could get the applications for the expo in, and I think we'll have a car in the parade this year, and so really trying to inform folks of what's available out there to help them kind of live through the challenge of getting older, I guess. So more to come.
Okay. Okay, so Old Home Day is this weekend. So council, we are in the parade. Remember, they closed the road at 9:30, 9:30, 9:45, so you won't be able to get back down into the area. Need to be at the middle school no later than 10:15 if you're going to participate in the parade. We come down to the reviewing stand. The reviewing stand has been moved to the opposite side of the town common. And what was discussed is that, again, for security issues, we've made a number of adjustments around the common to make sure that the area that is, whether it be a lot of residences, is well protected and secured. You'll also notice that the parade route will be well attended by security as well. So we are taking all the precautions we need to take going into the world as it presents to us today. There is senior dinner. If you would like to participate in serving that or anything, that starts around 5 o'clock. You have the concerts on the Common, in which we're bracing for what we think may be up to 1,000 people for this on Wednesday night. Battle of the Bands Thursday night, fireworks Friday night, parade Saturday, and the festivities on the Common. Everything is out on the websites. I saw the booth map out today, so let's have a good week. Drought update. I went through Wyndham today and I saw they moved to level 2.
That's right, Mr. Chairman. All of Londonderry tonight is in severe drought status, and so there's two different options that the council can undertake. One would be to do nothing. We could move to level 2, and if the council is concerned enough, we could move to level 3, which is a complete restriction on lawn watering.
So let's remind us what level 2 is?
Yes, so level 2 is lawn watering by odd-numbered addresses is allowed on Mondays and Thursdays, even-numbered addresses Tuesdays and Fridays, and only overnight. So no lawn watering between 8 a.m. and 7 p.m.
All right, so that folks understand this, and I also heard it discussed actually on WZID by the morning drive person there who's actually a Londonderry resident. When you have a well, yes, you do have a private well, but you access water that is accessed by everyone. It is a shared water supply. So our adjoining town of Wyndham, which has the exact same ordinance as us, I said I drove through the town today, and they moved to level 2. Personally, my lawn hasn't been cut in 3 or 4 weeks. So, I have no reason to, the grass is basically dead. But or dormant, I should say. What do you guys want to do? I mean, we're not getting any rain. We can change it again on the 29th. We can wait till the 29th and do nothing. It's up to all of you.
I would say to move to level 2.
I would agree.
So,
Good.
Yep, I don't have a problem with it. I just have one quick question. Is there a mechanism if we see blatant disregard? Is there a mechanism for it? Because I've also went around and seen blatant disregard, so.
There is a mechanism. Interestingly, enforcement under the ordinance is placed with the police department. I think that that's an interesting place for it, I guess, is what I would say. But yes,
Generally, their policy is to educate first.
Correct.
And then enforce.
Correct. And in discussions that I've had with them, that is the stance that we'll be taking. But, obviously there are significant fines, and we do have that authority.
All right, so it's the consensus of the council, from what I'm hearing, is to move level 2 immediately.
Understood. We will, there's a notification provision in the ordinance. We will undertake that and begin enforcing it.
Okay. Community Power Coalition update.
Mr. Chairman, this is still in process. There have been discussions at the Energy Committee, consultation with me and my office, some legal review that is also taking place of the existing contract that we have for community power and other potential options. I think I mentioned to you, Mr. Chairman, that the Freedom folks want to come in and have a conversation with us, and so I'm working towards doing that sometime next week.
Yeah, again, they contacted me directly. I sent them to you, I believe, or they contacted us both at the same time. I don't actually really remember. A second counselor is more than welcome to attend. They've asked for a meeting. I want to do whatever's best for the community. In addition to your town manager report, which we all do have, other things as we go forward and we're making changes, like I really like this part about Kelly Walsh and her coming on as a new planner. So if we get, if we make some, adjustments or anything, keeping them here in the town manager report would be really good.
Absolutely.
So that all the counselors are informed. I did meet Kelly Walsh. Turns out that I had met her when she was in high school, and I didn't know that until I actually met her, and we talked for about 15 or 20 minutes. I'm delighted that she's here. She really has a vested interest in the town. Her dad was actually one of the firefighters at the fire department, retired from the fire department, and I was very, other than to say that I was really pleasantly pleased by the discussion and by her enthusiasm and her willing to take things to the next level. So it was a fun conversation. And I asked her to come in at some point before she has to present to us formally to say hello to everybody. I don't have anything, do you have anything else?
The only other thing I'd mention in terms of town manager report is the Lancaster Drive project. That's something that is really important for folks behind the Apple Tree Mall there. It's almost done. I'm really thrilled to report to the council and to the public. A great example of teaming up the town with DES and with residents to try to, and with, the folks that are potentially responsible for that contamination, to achieve a really good result for those residents.
You're talking the water line, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Anything else tonight? All right, so this was a long meeting. We had a good long break here for the summer. We did it during all the heat, so that was good as well. Our next town council meeting is August 29th at 7 PM. Do I have anything further for the council tonight? Seeing none, I'll accept the motion to adjourn.
So moved, Chairman.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Chair votes affirmative. We are adjourned.